The 2024 Formula One season was one that many were expecting to go through the same way that the 2023 one did, which saw one team and one driver in Max Verstappen and Red Bull respectively dominate the season and leave precious little for the other drivers to compete with. But surprisingly, that is not what has happened at all. Instead, rather remarkably, the other teams have started to step up significantly, and the Canadian Grand Prix, which was concluded over this particular weekend, has been proof of that. Yes, Max Verstappen ended up winning the race anyway, but a lot of that was down to some mistakes as well as a little bit of good luck that came his way courtesy of his opponents. Two other drivers in George Russell and Lando Norris could very well have been on top of the podium on any other given day if a couple of other things went their way. But what it does show you is that potentially there is a chance that you could be seeing a closer title fight this year, assuming the rate of development and these teams continue to, let's say, bring the fight on a variety of tracks. But I know I've spoken a lot about Verstappen winning, but what exactly were the circumstances that led to his two closest rivals on the day actually falling out of the race? Well, let's check in and let's start with George Russell, who, it is worth noting, had gotten pole position in this particular race. Unfortunately for him, the race started in the rain, which meant that they had to go on intermediate tires, which he then ended up burning through. Now, what do I mean by burning through? He ended up getting through them too quickly and then was basically left fighting for grip at a time when they couldn't have made a pit stop. And then once they were able to make a pit stop, he ended up going off the track and losing track position, which meant that the second half of the race, he was left playing catch up. Pretty unfortunate, but also very much mistakes of his own doing. He should have been more gentle on his tires in the first stint, and then when on slick, shouldn't have been pushing that hard, that he ended up going off track, losing position to Verstappen, and then was left fighting for a podium position in the end. Yes, he got third position, but there is a school of thought that says that if he had made one less mistake, he would have possibly been second, and if he had made none of those mistakes, he probably would have won the race anyway. The other one, that is McLaren's Lando Norris, well, he too could count himself unlucky, except in his case, he didn't actually do anything wrong. The key mistake really, or the key thing that undid McLaren, was the first safety car that came about early in the race. Why did that get undone? Because Norris at that point in time was leading the race, and in fact throughout the race drove what he described as a pretty perfect race. He had gotten ahead of both Verstappen and George Russell, but then after that the safety car came at such a time that Verstappen got a free pit stop and Norris had already crossed the pit lane, which meant that he couldn't get that pit stop, that free pit stop, which would have saved him and the team a lot of time. So all that really undid McLaren and Norris for very fine margins. Put it this way, if Norris was a little slow, he would have actually been in a position to get the pit stop. It was that fine. In fact, him driving as well as he did probably ended up undoing him, and that is just how fine the margins can be at elite level sport. So it was a combination of these factors that led to Verstappen winning. Does that mean he was a bit lucky? Sure, but winners do end up riding their luck more often than not, and Verstappen is a three-time world champion, not someone who you should be taking lightly at this stage in his career. And so when others made the mistakes, he pounced exactly as they should have. What the Canadian Grand Prix and the previous Monaco Grand Prix have shown you is that teams are starting to catch up to Red Bull, but whilst the cars they have might be matching up, their drivers need to be doing a lot more to ensure that they can throw this man, Max Verstappen, off his game on a consistent basis. Whether that happens in 2 weeks' time when they head back to Europe for a double header, that's something that remains to be seen. But what we do know is that the 2024 Formula One season is becoming far more interesting than anyone had any right to think that it would. But what are your thoughts on the Canadian Grand Prix weekend? Do you think the other teams are catching up? Can anyone stop Verstappen? Is Red Bull's dominance finally ending? You can let us know the answers to those questions in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, X and Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well. For now, from my side though, it is goodbye.